And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gents. This is about Casanova from Orlando, Florida, on this awesome international podcast, Good Wine and Great Laughs, the podcast for wine lovers, summer movies, reviews, and hot topic discussion, ladies and gents. If you are new to this YouTube channel, I'm Casanova, your host. Welcome to Casa Casanova, and what I do here every day, every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. I have the wine of the day, ladies and gents. I'm going to open this wine shortly. I'm going to give you my review about what I think about this wine and got some information about on the back label about what this wine is all about. And then the picture of this wine is going to be available on my social medias, ladies and gents. So if you like what you heard about my review and want to taste it, want to drink, find this wine, the picture is available for you on all my social medias, okay? During the summer movies of June and July, what I do, I stop hot topic discussions and I do summer movies reviews. The movies that are coming on movie theaters and all the other platforms that I think I want to enjoy it, I will go watch these movies and I give my review, okay? And during the rest of the year, I do hot topic discussions. Hot topic discussions are discussions that can affect our lives directly or indirectly, ladies and gents. So if you like wine, if you like summer movies reviews, and if you like hot topic discussions, this YouTube channel is for you. If you like the work that I do, ladies and gents, I ask about only 3 things from you. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, click on the like button on any video that you watch, and share any of my episodes with at least 5 people you know. I appreciate your support, ladies and gents. So today is Saturday, February 2021, and the weather here in Orlando is going to be hot. We're going to be mainly sunny, ladies and gents. Highs of 89 degrees and lows of 65. All right. So before talking about the topic of the day, let's talk about the wine of the day, ladies and gents. This one is CULITOS. This is the second CULITOS that I bring to you, ladies and gents. I believe the first one was a Malbec. I did purchase a Cabernet Sauvignon. I'm not sure. I did not do the podcast on that one, okay? But I believe I have it here on my wine collection. And I have this new one right here, okay? According to the back label, say, CULITOS, superior red wine with natural fruit flavors. Okay, full body, no buts. About great fruit finish. Is important. It's a product from Chile, ladies and gents. Alcohol percent of this wine is 12.5. All right. Once again, CULITOS VINO TINTO Superior. All right. Superior red wine. Okay. Let's see what this CULITOS is all about. And I got my decanter right here. This I made sure that I do not have to run in my kitchen to get it. Beautiful, beautiful red. Ruby red. Ooh la la, look at that. So far, I love this color right here, ladies and gents. Beautiful ruby red. Okay. Ladies and gents, I'm going to tell you right now, this CULITOS Superior Red is the shit. I really, really like. It does have a hint of sweetness in the back of palate, not overpowering, and I love that. It's there's no hint of tannins. That means it doesn't have the taste of dryness in your mouth. I love that. And it's very, very smooth at the end. So, ladies and gents, CULITOS Superior Red I give you a 10. 10, 10, 10. This is the second CULITOS that I have, and I love it both. Once again, ladies and gents, the picture of CULITOS is available on all my social medias, all right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump on today's topic. For season 12, episode 7, I was about to continue the discussions about some videos, about some great conversations with some great people from that represent, and that I believe symbolize the great example of the Black History Month. But this week we lost Reverend Jesse Jackson, ladies and gents. So this podcast today we're going to be talking about remembering Reverend Jesse Jackson. Credits to NBC Chicago. While I'm playing this, I may play another video. Now I'm still searching here to see why I play this. I may play another one too, but according to the time, so far, credit is to NBC, and if I play another video right behind, I definitely want to give my 2 cents. I give you the credit to the second video that may be added to this podcast today. All right, ladies and gents. So enough talking. It is showtime.
Jesse Jackson.
He did not bring us this far to leave us now. Go on ahead. Go on ahead. Never turn back. Our time has come.
The civil rights icon died early this morning at the age of 84. Good afternoon to you, and thank you for joining us here at 4 o'clock. I'm Marion Brooks.
And I'm Stephen Holt. It's great to be with you this afternoon. Today, the city of Chicago and really the entire nation are reflecting on the journey of Reverend Jesse Jackson.
From his protest beginnings in college to working alongside Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to twice running for president, Reverend Jackson's life has impacted generations.
Our political reporter, Marianne Ahern, takes a look back at some of the many highlights.
Few ever roared from a pulpit or podium like Jesse Louis Jackson.
I have determined that I will be what I want to be. Fly a plane, build a bridge, run for Congress, run for president.
Born in Greenville, South Carolina in 1941, Jackson was raised in the deep poverty of the segregated South. A high school athlete, he won a football scholarship to the University of Illinois, but headed home after only a year. He left, but in 1966, at the age of 25, he returned to study at Chicago Theological Seminary. He was young, ambitious, and increasingly controversial.
I am somebody.
Chicago became his base, his presence and power growing as a civil rights leader and as a politician.
From slave ship to championship, our time has come. From our house to White House, our time has come.
In 1984, Jackson unsuccessfully sought the Democratic presidential nomination. He ran again in 1988 and won 11 primaries before bowing out. He earned a primetime slot at the party's national convention and urged the nation to dream.
When my name goes in nomination, your name goes in nomination. I was born in the slum, but the slum was not born in me. And it wasn't born in you, and you can make it.
Jackson was the most prominent and controversial civil rights leader of his generation. He led crusades fighting black-on-black crime, urged students to excel academically, and implored generations to fight the growing dangers of illegal drugs. Still, controversy was an early and constant companion. He was in Memphis in 1968 when Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was assassinated. The morning after, Jackson appeared on television in a shirt he said was covered in King's blood, raising questions, according to author Barbara Reynolds.
No one knows where he got the blood because he didn't come near Dr. King.
There was blood on me because he was bleeding profusely. He had been shot in the neck.
What we have seen is the invention of a Negro leader or black leader.
First, Operation Breadbasket, then Operation Push became his platform. He helped oust Mayor Richard J. Daley and his allies from the 1972 Democratic National Convention. He battled Mayor Jane Byrne over minority participation over what was to become Chicago Fest. Chicago was his home, but the world was his stage. Fighting apartheid in South Africa, supporting Palestinian rights, and in 1984, securing the release of a downed American pilot in Syrian-held territory in Lebanon. The remarkable life of Jesse Louis Jackson began as the son of an unwed teenage mother with little prospects for a life of achievements, but blessed with intellect and a gift of oratory.
I can be what I want to be because there's a me that makes me me.
And the ability to seize the moment in both controversy and conviction. Jackson's name will long be remembered. And in a statement that may best sum up his life's journey, the Reverend Jesse Jackson said this: "Those of us who dare to be change agents, who lead by molding opinion and not following opinion polls, always rub the edges of our society."
What a life, what a legacy. No question, he will not be forgotten. Jackson's son, Jesse Jr., has a radio talk show, and he didn't miss it today, despite his father's death.
And incredible, he shared some of those final moments with his dad today, hearing his last breath.
And about 12:35 this morning, I heard a gasp. And it was a deep and a long gasp. So I went over to check on him, and I didn't sense any movement. And I said, something's wrong. I then went over to wake up my mother, and I said, Mom, wake up. Something's not right here. She looked at him very carefully, and she said, it's happened. Dad's gone. And we all began crying and praying and trying to hold the pieces of our family together, and everyone was breaking down, and I couldn't believe it. And then it begins to set in that Jesse Jackson belongs to the ages.
Remarkable that he was composed enough to share that, and so grateful that those moments, so personal.
Marianne Ahern joining us now, of course, has been speaking to people close to Reverend Jackson all day today.
He has. And you know, you've certainly covered Jackson over the years. Those Saturday Operation Push meetings, a lot of people liken them to church. Reporters didn't want to miss anything because they knew that news was going to be made there.
Right. It was a must. It was a must go to. Absolutely. We knew that whether it was an upcoming election, Reverend Jackson was going to weigh in no matter the topic. You might say it was the laboratory for activism, whatever that issue might be, the war in Iraq, an opening on the Supreme Court, a concern over clean water in Flint, Michigan. Operation Push was where you would get Reverend Jackson's take, and the elected leaders knew he was going to hold them accountable.
You talked about Jane Byrne in that story a little bit earlier, all those roles in Chicago politics. Big role on the national stage as well. I mean, Reverend Jackson had a tremendous impact on how the Democratic Party nominates its candidates. Could you talk a little bit more about that, how he was able to make that change?
One of his legacies for sure will be this. His presidential campaigns, they were groundbreaking. In 1984, Jackson received 18% of the vote, finishing third. In 1988, he received even more votes, 29%. He forced the Democratic Party to change how the nominee was chosen and reduce the power of those winner-take-all primaries. We spoke today to Delmarie Cobb. She had been his national press secretary for that 1988 campaign.
One of the major rules that he changed was that instead of delegates going all to one person in a state, it then became proportionality. So each candidate got a proportion of their delegates based on the vote. And that made the way for Barack Obama to become the president in 2008.
He was the bridge from Martin Luther King to Barack Obama.
Absolutely. There would be no Barack Obama had there not been a Jesse Jackson, because Jesse Jackson knew how to use his leverage in strategic ways.
Finally, if you ever heard Reverend Jackson speak, it wasn't just those one-liners, and they did. You heard them, of course. But what caught your attention also was he knew how to speak quietly. He would make the crowd really listen to him by the way that he spoke. And that is really one of those moments I will remember for sure.
Certainly a gifted orator, and what an impact in so many areas of life. He knew, like Del Marie said, he knew how to use his influence. He really understood it very well. Key strategist. Thank you, Marianne.
And you've had a front row seat for a lot of that.
Yes, amazing.
For sharing that with us.
Thanks, Marianne. Well, of course, there are countless of tributes out there from political figures. They're just pouring in right now. Here's a few of the notables. Former President Barack Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama said in part, Michelle got her first glimpse of political organizing at the Jackson's kitchen table when she was a teenager. This is an aside. This is not part of the quote. She was best friends with Santita Jackson, Jesse Jackson's daughter. And in his 2 historic runs for president, the quote goes on to say, he laid the foundation for my own campaign to the highest office of the land.
Governor J.B. Pritzker of the state of Illinois ordered flags at half staff and tweeted, he broke down barriers, inspired generations, and kept hope alive. Our state, nation, and world are better due to his years of service.
And President Donald Trump posted in part, he was a good man with lots of personality, grit, and street smarts. He was very gregarious and someone who truly loved people.
So we've talked about the national stage. Back here at home in Chicago, Chicago's 6th Ward Alderman, William Hall, is remembering Reverend Jesse Jackson not just as a civil rights icon, but also as a mentor who inspired his career in public service.
Yeah, in an emotional interview, Hall says the world feels different today. He talked to Christian today. But Reverend Jackson's mission to serve the least and the left out must continue. Christian, I know he was very emotional. Christian joins us now with more on his powerful reflections. You could tell he was quite emotional.
Yeah, he was emotional on the morning show this morning, very emotional with us. He worked as a national field director and also Reverend Jackson's personal assistant as well. And he was like a second father to him. And so he worked between 2007 and 2008, and he helped put Alderman Hall on his current path.
He saw in me what I didn't see in myself at that time. And traveling the world with him wasn't about, the celebrity of him. It was to serve him. And from the time he opened his eyes, which, depending on the time zone, was 2 a.m, man. And from the time he woke up to the time he, put his head back on that pillow, my priority was to make sure that he had everything he needed to be the best at serving people.
Wow. Wow.
You hear a lot about that relationship, the way that he really touched people, not just in public service, but from people in the highest halls of power to people that were on the streets of Chicago. That relationship he had with the alderman, it sounds like there was kind of this mutual respect for each other. Did you pick that up in the interview?
Very much so. I mean, he said this was his second father, and he listened to him. And he initially offered him a job. He turned it down because the money wasn't very good.
He turned it down?
He turned down the job. Then he offered it to him again with a little bit more money, but that allowed him to travel the world and be on this political path and to serve. And that's the thing. It's about serving the people, and that's the most important thing that you learn from him.
And he said one of the things I kind of seemed to pull away from him was he believed in him. He made him believe he could do this, and he went to him when he wanted to run.
Yeah, well, he didn't come from like the Young Democrats or any other sort of political machine. And he just went out there and did it. And he told him to go do it. And he said, what's the advice? And he said, first to love them, serve them, and everything else will take care of itself. And that's how Alderman Hall has been doing it since then. He feels like he's done a good job, and he wants to continue that as his role as alderman of the 6th Ward.
Part of his legacy, part of Reverend Jackson's legacy,
part
for sure.
Part of the story. Christian Farr, it's good to see you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
All right. We'll be back with more on Reverend Jesse Jackson and the impact that he had and has had on young people.
Back to our coverage of the death of Reverend Jesse Jackson, passed away early this morning here in Chicago. Jackson had a way of encouraging young people, encouraging them to dream big and to chase excellence.
Regina Waldrop is here now. And Regina, you spoke with some students today about his impact and his legacy.
Yeah, Marion, we went to St. Sabina which is a Catholic school in the Auburn Gresham neighborhood. So Reverend Jackson, not just somebody who is talked about today, the day of his passing, he is someone that is part of their lesson plan. So all year long, he is someone that they talk about. So I want you to listen what some students said about Reverend Jackson today.
Okay.
We was talking about how Jesse Jackson was an outstanding person and how he gave us the ability to be able to come to the school today and giving us the ability to have equal rights as other people. And his famous quote is, "Believe in yourself." And every day I come to school and believe in myself and strive for greatness.
He works for those who didn't have a voice to make sure they had a voice.
Every school today in Chicago and this week should make their children do research on Reverend Jackson. We have the internet. We have Google. Look it up. Study him. See what he did, how he began as a young person, and how he vowed to be a leader in the country and making a difference around the world. He brought home hostages.
So if Reverend Jackson is not being discussed in your school, Father Flager says, again, you have the internet, look it up. If not for anything else, have your students, have your children take a quiz at home. Yeah. For me, I woke up my 14-year-old this morning. I said, Reverend Jackson has passed. She said, oh, no. I said, you know who that is? And she said, absolutely.
Oh, good.
Absolutely.
You are her mom, however. So
right.
We know that you're going to get that
Right.
message across. But one thing I think is really interesting, and people don't maybe know this, you know, we see a lot of the contributions that he's made on television and the videos from years past and everything, but he did a lot when the camera wasn't rolling as well, didn't he, Regina?
Well, there's that public persona that we all know so much, but there are also things in private. So my mother loved Reverend Jackson. A woman from the South came here, part of that great migration. She grew up listening to him on the radio. And so a few years ago, she became ill, and I was at Rainbow Push one weekend covering a story, and I told Reverend Jackson's PR person, I said, hey, she had, you know, you have a big fan in Barbara Waldrop. He says, oh yeah, give me your number. We're going to go visit your mom. And I said, well, you know, okay, let's see what happens. I get a text one day, we're on our way.
Wow.
To see Barbara Waldrop.
And he came.
And my mother was very ill. She had dementia.
Mm-hmm.
She was paralyzed. Mm-hmm. He came to see Barbara Waldrop.
Isn't that something?
What did that mean for you? That he, someone, such a big figure here in Chicago, globally, nationally.
I'm getting choked up here, Stephen. So, because I never tell anyone this story, but you know, again, you see that person on TV, that public persona. He didn't have to go out of his way for my mother, and he never said one thing about it. Mm-hmm. He never bragged about it. He never boasted about it. He just did it. He made her day.
Beautiful.
And he made her feel seen, important, you name it. Reverend Jackson did all this for Barbara Waldrop, and I can't thank him and his family enough.
Wow, beautiful story. Thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
It does speak to his character, and that's what we're talking about today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Regina.
A lot of memories being shared throughout the day today. And coming up at 4:30, we're going to have much more. We'll be right back after this.
We are giants with grasshopper complexes. Oh, yeah. Yes, sir. We don't know how powerful we really are.
You to remember Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. Tonight, there is a growing memorial outside of Rainbow Push Coalition headquarters in the Kenwood neighborhood.
NBC5's Charlie Vajahusky is live at 50th and South Drexel, where so many people have come out today to pay their respects. Charlie?
Well, Steph and Marion, we have seen a lot of people turn out here. Chicago police have erected a barricade all the way around the building, protecting the building for any crowds that might come later on. But everyone we've seen here has come with love and respect for the Reverend Jackson, a lot of them bringing private cards and messages to be put on that memorial, and a lot of them talking about the impact this organization has had on the community. This afternoon, bunting is going up over the door at the Southside headquarters of the Rainbow Push Coalition as neighbors and friends set flowers. Juanita Wade came to see Jesse Jackson almost 20 years ago when she was working through some legal problems.
I got the help I needed and more. It was amazing how he just didn't look down on me.
Stop the violence. Save the children.
Coming to Operation Push and later the Push Rainbow Coalition was a Saturday ritual for many in Chicago's Hyde Park and Kenwood communities. Mary Johnson lives across the street.
Serving breakfast for the people and all that. Clothing, anything. I mean, everything. It was just a pillar to the community.
That pillar was Jesse Jackson Sr., speaking from the pulpit or working behind the scenes, organizing events focused on neighborhood safety and empowerment.
More guns does not make us safer. What makes us safer is economic opportunity.
And this building, which was originally the home of Operation Breadbasket, founded by Dr. Martin Luther King's Southern Christian Leadership Conference, was an oasis for many, including Hermine Hartman, founder of Indigo.
We've lost a giant. I've lost one of my dearest friends. We're thankful for his life, his giving, his living, his legacy.
Former Congressman Bobby Rush, who says Jackson saved his life back in his Black Panther days, says the time has come for the students of Jesse Jackson to carry on his teachings.
I don't know where to go because he is missing. And so we are seeking direction, and our leader is absent.
Now, part of that healing process will be funeral services for the Reverend Jackson. Those will be announced in the next couple of days, as will a celebration of life ceremony. The family says they have established a website to post more information about those events when that information becomes available. We are live at 50th and Drexel, right in front of Rainbow Push Coalition headquarters. Charlie Wojciechowski, NBC 5 News.
Okay. Charlie, thank you very much. We appreciate it. So Reverend Jackson, of course, commanded media attention and for decades as a minister, as a politician, and a champion of civil rights.
Our coverage of the life and death of Jesse Jackson continues now with NBC Chicago's Chuck Gowdy, who has reported on the multifaceted Jackson for more than 4 decades. Chuck?
Marian, any journalist in Chicago for a minute or two has Jesse Jackson's stories. His coattails were long, with lots of people along the way trying to grab hold. And the shadow he cast was even longer, from a frame that stood 6 feet 3 inches and an arm span that made him an attractive college football recruit, first at U of I in 1959, then as starting quarterback at North Carolina A&T. In August 2014, the streets of Ferguson, Missouri, near St. Louis, were up for grabs after an unarmed teenager was shot and killed by police. Our news crew was in body armor and reporting from beneath gas masks as tensions escalated when the Reverend Jesse Jackson showed up unannounced to march with protesters. Jackson's appearance was his standard MO, strolling onto the scene, reducing the temperature for the moment, and trying to dial back hostilities, which he did for a time on these couple of days in Ferguson. Even though the tempers and the tension would strike again, at least when the Reverend Jackson put himself in the middle of things, there was a calming effect in those moments. Over the years, there were many disturbances, such as this one, where Jesse Jackson's presence alone changed behavior and the course of events. Many times he was more popular and powerful away from Chicago, arriving on the scene far from his hometown, that crowds considered his presence something special, deserving of their attention. In Chicago history, it may be noted that Jackson was conspicuously absent from the kinds of challenging moments that would draw him to out-of-town venues. And as the minister of the Christian Word, the Reverend Jackson could rightly note that even the Bible says a prophet is treated with honor everywhere except his own hometown. Marion?
Thank you so much, Chuck. That's so fitting. I came from out of town when I came to this market. I couldn't believe Jesse Jackson. Oh my goodness! And here it was like, oh, it's Reverend, because people were so used to him. But
for granted.
Everywhere else, I mean, he's big here, but he was monumental.
We forget that he actually lost his home state of Illinois in '84 and '88 when he ran for president.
There you go.
But his ability to dial down the temperature at those moments, interesting to see that in Ferguson and so many other chances.
Oh yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
All right.
Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you. Okay. Appreciate it.
Our coverage of the Reverend Jesse Jackson's life and legacy will continue after the break.
Yeah, we'll take a closer look at the impact he made on the international stage. We'll talk about that coming up next.
I am somebody. Respect me. Protect me. Never neglect me. I am somebody.
We continue to remember Reverend Jesse Jackson, who passed away this morning. His legacy is well established in Chicago and even in the country, but many may forget the impact he's had internationally.
Let's take a closer look at that. Patrick Fazio in the newsroom for us with that part of the story. Hey, Patrick.
Hey, Stephan and Marion. Yeah, Reverend Jackson will also be remembered for negotiating the release of hostages around the world. Over the decades, he's credited with helping to free hundreds of people taken captive, including U.S. service members.
Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we're free at last.
In 1999, Reverend Jesse Jackson helped free 3 U.S. soldiers taken hostage in Yugoslavia.
We can use moral authority to, in fact, intervene and within the law, pursuing human rights.
Reverend Jackson had traveled to meet with the president of Yugoslavia.
Good morning. I'm fine.
And eventually negotiated the release of the 3 U.S. soldiers taken captive during that country's war in Eastern Europe.
Thank Reverend Jesse Jackson, the clergy, for coming to help get us released.
A year later, Reverend Jackson received a White House honor for freeing those soldiers. President Clinton awarded him the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the nation's highest civilian honor.
It's hard to imagine how we could have come as far as we have without the creative power, the keen intellect, the loving heart, and the relentless passion of Jesse Louis Jackson.
President Reagan also honored Reverend Jackson in 1984 for negotiating the release of a U.S. Navy lieutenant held captive in Syria after his plane was shot down.
We have made contact with the State Department.
Over the decades, Reverend Jackson also negotiated the release of other Americans, including those held in Cuba. He's also credited with helping to free 700 women and children held after Iraq's invasion of Kuwait in 1990.
It's time for healing. It's time for hope.
Reverend Jackson joined Jewish leaders in 1999 to call for the release of 13 Jews held in an Iranian prison.
This is a community of faith, reaching out to our religious counterparts inside Iran, because we believe that civil society and religious organizations have a powerful role to play.
Reverend Jackson also joined Nelson Mandela to end apartheid in South Africa, motivated by the dream of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. when they worked together during the Civil Rights era.
The dream continues and the struggle continues, but every now and then we see flashes of hope. Inclusion leads to growth, and when there is growth, everybody wins.
And another part of his international legacy, Reverend Jackson served as a special envoy of President Clinton to promote democracy in Africa. Back to you.
When you put it all together like that, we do kind of forget some of his international impact. Patrick, thank you for bringing us that part of the story. We've got more to come on the death of Reverend Jesse Jackson.
Coming up after the break, we're going to join Carol Maureen to help break down his political legacy. Don't go away. Reverend Jesse Jackson, who died today, a civil rights icon, but also a trailblazer right here in Chicago.
Joining us now to add some perspective, our political analyst and longtime NBC5 political reporter, Carol Maureen, an anchor as well. She's done it all. You covered Reverend Jackson's presidential campaign in '84 and '88. What was your impressions of covering him as a candidate, a presidential candidate?
You know, in '83, we were in Quitman County, Mississippi. And that is not a place that it could be friendly to Jesse Jackson, but quite unfriendly, too. Mm-hmm. I remember traveling with his sons and him and watching Jonathan and Jesse Jr. look out for anyone who might shoot. You know, I mean, the fear, the risk that their father was taking in mounting that campaign, I don't think we can ever underestimate. And yet he was electric, magnetic. There's something about Jesse Jackson. If you say no, he says yes. No doesn't work for him. Mm-hmm. And so he launched that bid, did shockingly well, and then rolled into '88. And '88 was someplace where in 13 different state primaries and caucuses, he won. He won in Michigan among white farmers. You know, he won in Ohio Iowa factory workers.
What was it, do you think? How did he reach people?
They were disenfranchised. They were disillusioned. They were all of the things that Jesse Jackson identified with, people who were unheard, unhoused, unhelped, who had no hope. And that's where he struck the greatest, strongest, I think, most powerful chord.
A candidate who's really a long shot in that sense, who was able to kind of find that leverage, find that strategy, really connect and resonate with people. We heard that clip from Del Marie Cobb earlier, who said, had it not been for Reverend Jackson, we would not have seen a
Barack
president like Barack Obama.
Right.
Do you agree with that?
I do agree with it. I do agree with it, because Jesse Jackson set the table in many ways for Barack Obama. And if Barack Obama said, as he said more than once, how improbable his quest was, compared to Jesse Jackson's, I mean, Jackson's was impossible, and yet he defied the odds, and he defied the people who told him, no, can't be done, shouldn't be done. And even when he stumbled, and there were some serious stumbles along the way, he would say, God isn't finished with me yet, and move on. He was undeterred.
I want to talk a little bit about his legacy. Today, we're talking a lot about his legacy. Some people remember and some don't. For African American candidates, even aside from Barack Obama, because there are many on many levels that he touched, what would you say his legacy is for them?
He gave them the hope to do things that they were being told they probably couldn't do, or support they couldn't have. Remember, Jesse Jackson came to Chicago and formed Operation Breadbasket before there was push. There was Mayor Richard J. Daley then. Daley was not a fan of Jesse Jackson's, nor was Jackson a fan of the mayor's. This was an even more segregated city than it even still is to this day. So the challenges were greater, the partitions on race and the economy of people more profound. So Jackson, I really think, dropped the seeds and grew the plants that ended up being really the political trees that have launched so many candidates.
Including his own sons.
Including his own sons.
Yeah.
His own family. We think of some of the issues that he was trying to tackle back in the 60s and the 70s, 80s. A lot of the issues we're facing today. Is there this generational message, this generational legacy that he leaves behind that is relevant today just as it was 20, 30 years ago?
Well, I saw the piece with Mike Flager, and his Catholic school and those kids who were studying. Regina's piece was so touching to me. The fact is that, like Martin Luther King, he does live. His words live. I saw a YouTube video yesterday, and it was Jesse Jackson reading, I do not like green
From
eggs.
Saturday Night Live.
I do not like green eggs and ham. And I mean, I was mesmerized by it, because in fact, he can, with great authority, tell you not to eat green eggs and ham, Sam, I am.
And you're listening.
And you are listening. You are listening.
One other quick question I wanted to ask you, as a journalist of many decades who's covered him and the city of Chicago. What impression did he leave with you as a leader?
He was complex. I mean, he was a very complex man, and we can't oversimplify that. There were many dimensions to him. He could be a theologian. He could be a hard case politician. You can't reduce someone of that size to a small kind of description. And that, I think, is really important, because he had all the possibilities. He grew up with all the impossibilities. Single, unwed mother, poverty, being told no. Not everybody in black leadership loved Jesse Jackson. We can't forget that. I mean, there were challenges. He was young and bold, and some of the older leaders not so nuts about him. And now, look, he is one of the oldest, most iconic leaders that we have seen developed in this country.
One thing you have to say about him, he showed up.
He
Consistently
always
showed up. Even when he was ill, he continued to show up.
County jail, Congress, I don't care where, he was
showed
there.
up. That's right. Carol, thank you for your perspective.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Rooms. Marion?
Yes, his impact was felt far and wide, clearly. Thank you for bringing us that part of the story, Rose. We appreciate it. And that is going to round out our 4 o'clock broadcast here as we will continue, I know, to honor the life and legacy of Reverend Jackson. We'll send it to you guys for the 5.
Absolutely, Marion. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Marion.
Folks, my next guest, Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes III, followed Reverend Jackson as leader of Rainbow Push, served for a short period of time before resigning. He joins us right now. Pastor Haynes, glad to see you, Frat. You've been involved with Rainbow Push for quite some time. We were there in Chicago when the announcement was made. Vice President Kamala Harris spoke. Also, of course, there for the installation in Dallas. Things did not work out, but that did not change your relationship with Reverend Jackson.
Not at all. Not at all. As a matter of fact, he continued to call me at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think it's been said that he really very much sleep, and so he thought that I didn't require sleep as well. But again, Roland, and let me just say thanks for doing this. This is why Black Star Network is so important. I think Reverend Jackson is smiling right now, saying if anybody was going to be on mission in the aftermath of his transition, it would be Roland Martin, because y'all are definitely 2 peas in a pod. You are always on mission. And I never will forget when you went to visit him and you, to our group message, said the Reverend Jackson from his sick bed. And a lot of us thought that it was, toward the end, he is strategizing as to what the Black church needs to do. And so that for me, that birthed my relationship with Reverend Jackson. It continued my relationship with Reverend Jackson. And Roland, I give you this. One of the things he said to me that arrested me and has presided over so much of what I try to do in my own ministry, Reverend Jackson said that most Black preachers have a picture of Malcolm X in their study, a picture of Martin Luther King Jr. on their fans, church fans, but then they preach like Billy Graham in the pulpit in terms of their theology, their hermeneutic. Jesse Jackson taught me the importance of flushing out of my system any of that white evangelical Christian nationalism that has poisoned so much of popular Black preaching, that results in prosperity preaching that is more capitalist than it is Christian. And so Reverend Jackson drove that. And for me, one of the things I thought about him today, and all I could reflect on, was the fact that whereas James Cone fathered Black liberation theology and Jeremiah Wright to pass in the pulpit and the church, but it was Jesse Jackson who took it from the pulpit to the pavement. And so when I think of Reverend Jackson, all the things he did that literally transformed not just the Democratic Party, but he trailblazed what issues we are discussing today. And the bottom line is, I believe it was because of his moral compass, his theology of ministry, and his sense that if you are going to follow in the footsteps of Jesus, you better be concerned about transformational ministry for the least of these, those who are left behind. And that's when he helped this country to see that the vast majority of Americans, the vast majority of people on this planet, are people who are the least of these. And so I just got to say, my ministry continues to be influenced by him. And again, brother was all in, and I'm sure you know, he would call no matter what time of day it was, but his fertile mind always coming up with a new strength.
Absolutely. And I said last night, and again, I witnessed it. There's no doubt the prayers seriously helped Reverend Jackson because again, the word where he was going to pass away within days. The doctors were shocked that he recovered. And I absolutely believe that what happened was the energy of the people who were visiting him, who were calling, who were talking, his mind, it revived him. It gave him that energy. And they were just like, I can't believe this. Doctors couldn't believe what happened. And I keep telling people, when all you know, 'cause like when we were in the Mount Arbery trial with Bishop Barber in Texas, the voting rights march, and Reverend insisted on getting out. I tried to explain to people, because I had people that they're like, I don't understand, like, what this man doing? Like, why is he? I said, y'all don't understand. All that man knows is marching and protesting. I said, that's in it. I said, he can't. I said, this idea. So that's why he would show up. He would be there. I got photos of him at the NBA All-Star game, at the Legends Luncheon, and Larry Bird and others, stopping the Patriot. All this man knew was being. Yeah. He stayed on the wall.
Yeah. Never tireless, full of energy. Again, up until he could not get around, because he was called like someone I've never seen in my life. And that gave him an energy. I think when the rest of us would be running on empty, somehow he had another tank that he would tap into to keep on going. And again, Roland, here's what gets me. His mind was always on.
Yeah.
His mind was always strategically looking at. I tripped out because, again, told him when again, and everything up and said about over. And that's when he said, I've been telling you, you need to get in the 50 largest markets, 20 churches in each of those markets. You all can help our people survive this government shutdown, and then organize that beyond the government shutdown so you can mobilize churches in 2026. He's talking about 2026 at the end of 2025, when we're wondering if he's going to make it through 2025. And so I'm with you, the power of prayer, but also don't forget Reverend Jackson was a man of prayer himself.
Yep.
Because I've been in settings with him where wasn't nobody else praying but him. And he would say, let us pray, no matter what the setting was, be it at the border, be it a march, be it in another setting with people of no religion or different religions. And he would go ahead and pray because he recognized the God of the universe is the God of all of us. And so all of that was a part of him. And I think it's also important as we celebrate, his political genius. He was also a moral genius.
He was, another thing is this, he was constantly challenging the black church to do more. And we're living in a moment where, frankly, a lot of black preachers have stopped leading beyond the church walls. And what he was saying is salvation is important. Salvation is one thing. But I go back to what Dr. King said in his book, Chaos or Community, Where Do We Go From Here, when he challenged the church, he challenged the black church by saying, he said, first of all, that there were four institutions that were committed four institutions that were positioned to liberate black people. And he said the black church, he said the Negro church, the Negro press, Negro fraternities and sororities, and he said, and Negro professional business organizations. And this is what he says. He says, there are still too many Negro, and I keep this on my iPad, my iPhone, everything. And it's the basis of this book that I'm working on that will be dropped in November. He said, there are still too many Negro churches that are so absorbed in a future good over yonder that they condition their members to adjust to the present evils over here.
Over here, yeah. Yeah, that's powerful. One of the things that Reverend Jackson said that piggybacks on that really blessed me tremendously. He said that if I have a size 10 foot and you put me in a size 8 shoe, he said the problem is structural. Now, the church would give you an aspirin in order to try to mitigate the pain, as opposed to dealing with the structure itself that causes the pain. And that's what he was always doing. He was always stretching, challenging, castigating, if you please, in a loving fashion, the church, basically saying, you all are real good at making sure that, we have medicine for the pain, but you don't want to deal with the source of the pain. You don't want to deal with the structures that create the pain. He said a size 10 foot in a size 8 shoe means you have a structural problem, and structures are designed to produce outcomes: economic, political, educational, healthcare. All of those are structures that are creating pain even to this day. And if we don't address the structure, then that means we often content ourselves just to give medication as opposed to correcting the structure.
And for the people who the holy rollers, the people who don't fully understand what you're talking about, and I've talked about this a whole lot, and that is what he was also saying to them is, and when he was talking to you about those 50 churches, 20 cities, now you're talking about 1,000 churches, moving people. The biblical layout that we were talking about was Nehemiah. Go to my iPad, Nehemiah chapter 2. Yeah. When Nehemiah inspected the wall, saw what was going on, and then Nehemiah came up with a plan and said to the people, you see the trouble that we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burned with fire. And the key part is he laid the plan out. And then it says the people said, let us start rebuilding. So they began this good work. This is the problem, that what we have is we have too many preachers. And I can't tell you how many times, and you've been invited to more of these, where I've been invited to cover a pastoral gathering. We're going to get together and do X thing. And all they did was make the announcement. Nothing followed the announcement. Yeah. There was nothing coming behind the announcement. And you sitting here going, okay, so y'all are Nehemiahs who presented a plan, but y'all never went to the people, and the people never responded with, let us rebuild. So what Reverend Jackson was saying is, leaders, preachers, Nehemiahs have to lay out the plan for folk to go, got it. Now we have a role in this. Let us rebuild. That's where the challenge today of the black church is. We just got a whole bunch of folk thinking they Nehemiah, but they ain't examine nothing. They just simply talking about it.
Preach. Man, you're preaching, Bishop Martin, again. But I have to seriously say, I was on a call the other day with Congresswoman Crockett with some ministers of the gospel. Her opening statement was, and it was a powerful statement, she said, you all are organizers because every Sunday your congregations come together. My challenge to my colleagues was, okay, it's not enough just for us to organize to come together on Sundays, because again, Reverend Jackson was trying to get us to organize in all of these markets, 1,000 churches. It was called 1,000 Churches Connected, because he wanted us to be ready to mobilize for voter education, for voter registration, for voter participation and mobilization. And he continuously reminded us that those churches, because one of the things I won't forget, Roland, we're in that conversation and one of the pastors says, well, Rev, we can get more churches than that because our city has more than just 50 churches. Our city has more than just 20 churches. We can get more than that. And that's when he reminded us, y'all, we don't need an uncommitted majority. We need a committed minority, because the bottom line is every black church was not involved in the civil rights movement. He was one of the few involved. And every time he testified, he said, someone asked him, how'd you get so close to Reverend King so fast? And his response was, because the line wasn't too long, because there weren't a lot of preachers who were trying to get in line to put their lives on the line, to go about the serious work of organizing beyond what takes place on Sunday mornings. And so again, like you said, he's always pushing and challenging and stretching us to organize, to do a whole lot more, because we have the capacity and the potential to do so much more. And so again, Reverend Jackson, as far as I'm concerned, a moral genius, a political genius with the highest social justice IQ I've ever been around. On top of that, he belonged to the Mount Rushmore of transformational leaders. I got a message last night that Father Flagel was saying, listen, it's really poetic that on the first day of early voting in the state of Texas, Reverend Jackson makes his transition why don't we spend as preachers and pastors and faithers the rest of this year organizing to get out the vote this year? That would be a fitting tribute to Reverend Jackson. It's nice to say these nice things about him, but Roland, going back to what you said, we got to go to Nehemiah chapter 2, because the other piece in that chapter is that when they said, let us rebuild, they were stationed, they were mobilized at various places along the wall.
Portions of the gate.
There was an organization that followed the motivation.
And for the preachers who go, we got X number, we got this, that, and the other. Clearly, they didn't read. They don't remember the story of Gideon when God was like, "Get rid of the folk who go to the water and just stick their head in it, and they ain't looking around. You don't need them on your team." So I keep telling, it's nothing wrong with getting rid of dead weight.
Mm-hmm. Well, just be honest, Roland. Just be honest.
Look, I would call it what it is. It's a bunch of folk who are dead weight, who want to be at the news conference, and who want to be standing at the podium, and then they don't do no work.
Right. Don't do work. And again, you can't celebrate Reverend Jackson unless you're serious about understanding this man was about the work. He could preach on Sundays. He could give a speech on Mondays. But listen, this is the same man who Christmas, and we often forget this, Christmas, he took his family and Rainbow Push members to the prison, Cook County Jail, rather, in Chicago, and there he would minister to those behind prison walls. That's what he did on Christmas, because he took the birth of Jesus seriously. The man was about the work.
Simple as that. Reverend Frederick Douglass Haynes III. I appreciate it, Fred. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you, Fred. Keep on preaching.
I'm just going to do what I do. I told you I'm bootleg.
And ladies and gentlemen, as I told you in the beginning, I may play another video to complement today's work. And credit to NBC Chicago and Roland Martin, ladies and gentlemen. There is, because I decided to do that because the NBC Chicago, they start showing the tribute to Reverend Jesse Jackson at 4 p.m. local time, and then on the 5 o'clock news, basically they are continuing, but they are repeating a lot of stuff that they play already on the 4 o'clock. So I don't want to be a repetitive video, long video, repetitive. So I told you I may play another video. So once again, credits to NBC Chicago and Roland Martin Unfiltered, ladies and gents. Now, to be honest with you, I did not know too much about his history. I know that he was involved in the civil rights movement. He did a lot of projects and work with the Martin Luther King, Reverend Martin Luther King, but I did not know too much about his history after the assassination of Martin Luther King. Because all the time that he was doing his thing in the 80s, in the 90s, I was living in Brazil. So when I came to the United States in 1999, he already has passed, his candidacy for president twice in 80 to 84, in 88. So he's still doing his thing in different parts of it. But I particularly did not pay attention too much about his work. Okay? But moving on, is still one of the icons that you need to celebrate related to the African American history. Now is part now. His past, his another ancestor that his work to improve the life of every black person. When that spirit, he say, I am somebody. For everything the black people go through, and it's still going through from the past to present, it's still too much, related to racism and all this disadvantage that you still have, but you're still pushing forward to a better future for everyone, not only for black people, but for everybody. Because a lot of other minorities that has their own rights because they took now a page in the blueprint from everything has been done for the civil rights movement, that they applied that to their fights, to their struggles. So, once again, kudos to the Reverend Jesse Jackson. My condolences to the family on this moment of sorrow. And just remember that your family member ran his race. And now he's on the other side. He's in the upper room. And he's with his ancestors, for the people that he worked back his youth. And life goes on. And just let's know that you should be more than proud to have him as a father, as a grandfather, or as a friend for those that lived with him for many years, that you were part of his life, and also somewhere, somehow, his legacy touched your life. All right, ladies and gents. So I hope you liked this. I hope you liked this episode, ladies and gents. Please click on the like button, share this episode with at least 5 people you know. And ladies and gents, last Saturday is going to be the last Saturday that I'll be doing related to the Black History Month. And if nothing happened, I will play the video that I already had planned to do it, but I postponed it because the passing of the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Salute. Please be safe, be kind, and be blessed, and do the best what you can do with what you got. Holla!
Coming with the put up for the #1 spot. Pushing my rap like the push I on the block.